Hey, Colleen, how you doing? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful and
I know.
excited to be on here.
Yeah, digging into our topic today. I'm so excited. If you don't mind just telling everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. If you're a real estate agent watching, you may have seen us around if you're local in the Central Maryland area, actually, or across the country because I run Real Producers, which is part of a national franchise network. I have two franchises, Baltimore and Coastal Real Producers, and essentially it's a high level real estate networking organization is really the best way to think of it. It's a whole platform that connects, elevates, inspires the best in local real estate. And we do that through a monthly magazine. We host recurring events, educational and social, to bring the community together. And we have a private Facebook group. And really, all those elements serve to just drive connection in an industry that otherwise can feel competitive. And it elevates the whole industry when we all work together and we can all win together. It's an abundance type mindset. So that's the business I'm in on. I guess it's still on the more personal side. I'm just Jill and I, she's my wife, we have a nonprofit organization that kind of ties into real estate in a sort of way. It's called Love and Lunches, and we assemble and distribute 100 bagged lunches to those experiencing homelessness and hunger in Baltimore City. And we do that every single Sunday, just serving the food week to week and having that whole experience. There's a lot of overlap in terms of we have different organizations and groups come and volunteer with us. So because of our integration into real estate, we've had a lot of groups, teams, lenders, to all different people in real estate, whether it's their family or their team, whoever, come and join us and volunteer. And that also kind of deepens those relationships and connections. So that's something that we're really passionate about, that being a part of this real estate ecosystem has really helped fuel and fund that venture as well. So we love Baltimore, and we love giving back to Baltimore. And yeah, I live in Baltimore City, a happy Baltimore City resident, despite the press sometimes. I love my city. I love being in Maryland. And yeah, I love just being a part of this amazing network, both in the real estate space and, of course, outside of that.
Awesome. Yeah, so tell me. So that's your nonprofit. Did you guys start it? And what was the origin of that? Like what made you get that started?
Great question. So I have to give all the credit to my wife, Jill. She's really the heart behind the organization. Her family actually started it back when she was 12 years old, and they lived in Baltimore as well. And she grew up very poor. They didn't have much. Her mom was an addict, unfortunately, and they just lived in rough conditions. And one day her parents came to her and her brother and suggested that they find some sort of activity that they could do to give back to the community in some way. So her brother and her came up with the idea to make lunches and drive down to Baltimore City and give them out to people. And they started with 10 lunches. They didn't know what they were doing. They just drove into the city and just tried to find people. And it's crazy just how it kind of snowballed from there. They got so much value from doing it that week after week, it became this whole community activity that their neighbors got involved in, and word of mouth. They had like articles written in the Baltimore Sun, and they really grew and scaled it to where they went from 10 lunches to 1,500 lunches every Sunday. And it was a whole weekend like activity, basically. It took up their whole weekend in terms of coordinating and picking up all the food, all the different places. And the community really came together to bring that to life. And it really ran strong for about 5 years. And unfortunately, Jill's mom's health was declining with her addiction, and ultimately she ended up passing away. And so they kind of shut it down at that point because they didn't have the resources to continue and the really thrust behind it that her mom provided. But it was always in Jill's heart to relaunch it one day because she loved it so much, and she was so passionate about it. So on Mother's Day, in honor of her late mother in 2015, we just had our 10-year anniversary this May. Me, her, my mom, just a handful of us decided one Sunday, that Mother's Day, to do it again. And so we did it. And then ever since then, 10 years strong, we've been doing it every Sunday. If we go on vacation, we have people fill in for us. maybe a little wonky, when they try to do it, in our absence. But we have people now that are regulars that do it. So that's really how it got started. And I just kind of was along for the ride on this second round of relaunching it in 2015. And my appreciation for it has only grown over time, because it's really Jill's passion and heart that got it started. And I can't say that I loved it every single Sunday. I was a little bit like, some Sundays I was like, I'm just not in the mood for this today. But she was so dedicated, and we kept doing it every single Sunday. So it's now become part of our routine. So if we don't do it, I feel some type of way about it. Like if we're out of town, it's like I have this weird like guilt, because it's so embedded in our weekly routine. So probably a long answer to your question, but that's kind of
No,
that's
I love
the
the story.
backstory, how
That
it
is
got
so
started.
cool.
And love for anybody watching, if you want to get involved, you can go to our website, loveandlunches.org, and there's a place you can click to volunteer with us, or I'm sure we'll share my info. You can connect with me directly, and I can let you know how to get involved. So we're always looking for volunteers, and it's such a fulfilling, really, activity. And we're done in an hour and a half. It's quick, it's fun, it's easy, and yeah, people get a lot out of it.
That's great. I'll make sure that I put that link down so everybody
Thank
else.
you. Thank you. I would love
Yeah,
that.
for sure. So with Baltimore Real Producers, how did that all come about? Like, how did you get started with all of that?
So different story, but before Real Producers, I know I met you during this time. I used to sell Cutco.
Yes.
I think I was with Cutco for about a decade. So
Wow.
I was with them a while, and in a business that's typically kind of a revolving door type of sales company, I was one of the few that actually stuck around and made a career out of it. And so this does connect to Real Producers, because being with Cutco, of course, I started like everyone does in Cutco as a college student. You're kind of going to different people's homes, starting with your parents, and then they refer you to their friends. And it's all a referral-based business. But I shifted about 5 years into my 10-year career, so like around 2012, from selling to just homeowners, I guess B2C, kind of like consumers, to shifting to selling realtors. And the reason was I had met enough realtors over those years and noticed that realtors tended to buy more, and they tended to reorder, because they weren't just buying for themselves. They were buying sets for closing or client gifts. And, we started realizing, oh, they want to have it engraved, and they can put their logo on it, and sharpest realtor in town, or, it became a marketing tool for them. So I did that for a number of years and got really well networked into the local real estate community, because I was just that vendor that tried to sponsor all the things, show my face, because I understood the more present I was, the more likely I would be remembered, and that I would convert business, because I would be building relationships with these people and staying top of mind with them. I was more so always marketing alongside other vendors like lenders and title companies and service-based businesses. So I got really well networked, and really the impetus that connected that experience to launching Real Producers here in Baltimore. But what I didn't really understand was the whole kind of community aspect of it, that it's more than just the magazine. So I kind of saw, oh, he's hosting events. Okay, so this is more than just that. And so the stars aligned, because I'm like, as a vendor, I could totally see value in putting my business in front of these realtors. And with Remington doing it, and me kind of wanting to do something different, feeling like I kind of hit a ceiling with Cutco, was like, all right. And so in 2016, I kind of started making moves to transition. And by 2017, we launched the very first edition of Baltimore Real Producers. It was our March edition in March of 2017. So we're now coming up on our, I guess, 9-year anniversary. And since then, because I was one of the first like 5 markets to launch across the whole company nationally, I think Real Producers now is in about 130 markets
Mm.
across the country. So it's really exploded across the whole country. And the business model works. So Baltimore's going strong. We launched our second market 2 years ago. We have our 2-year anniversary coming up. Our party is actually this coming month, of Coastal Real Producers, which is like coastal Maryland, Delaware market. So that is the story of how it got started, from Cutco to now Real Producers.
That's great. Oh my gosh. All right. So, number one question, how do you choose who gets featured?
It's a great question, and it's an important one because if any realtors are watching this, I would want them to know how, first of all, if they want to get featured or they have people that want to get featured, like how does this happen? So the first step is a nomination. That's always the first step. It's peer to peer, really, because other realtors are nominating them. We also do take nominations from our preferred partners because that's a huge benefit that they can nominate their favorite realtors and people, and they would build some goodwill and relationships with them through that. But it starts with a nomination, and how to nominate very simply. But we have a website. You can just Google Baltimore Real Producers. It'll be the first one. Or it's baltimorerealproducers.com. Same with Coastal, same either way. And the website, it just says nominate an agent here. That's one of the tabs. So you can just, it's a little form. It's not long. It's just like, who do you want to nominate? Who are you? And why do you want to nominate them? It's like very simple. And that just puts them in the queue of consideration, essentially. And so Jill, our editor-in-chief, then kind of takes those nominations, goes through and vets through like who would possibly be a good fit for one issue. After they get nominated, they get an application to fill out. So that just helps us get to know them, like what's their production, what's kind of their background, what's their relative experience, also like how do they give back to the community. And I think the important thing for people to know and hear is that being featured in Real Producers is not just based on production. That is definitely a factor of consideration. And we do have minimums that you have to reach, like to be on the cover if you're a producing agent, because that would at least be a separator between a cover story and then we have a bunch of stories we feature on the inside, like a rising star or agent to watch or something like that. Any combination of those things, like there's no score per se, but we just consider those areas to inform whether that would be a good fit to feature them. And then it's just a matter of putting, like, it's like a puzzle, what agent to feature this. We want it to be diverse across brokerages, ideally, and areas, race, gender, all of that stuff goes into the factor of who gets featured when. But yeah, we want to tell inspiring stories. We don't want to just talk about the numbers and, how great an agent is or how much they sold. That is a badge of honor that they wear proudly, and it can definitely be mentioned. But, people see Real Producers and it's a community of like the top producing agents. So people tend to think it's only about production, but we're way more inclusive than that. We care about the quality of the stories that we're telling and who these people really are and humanizing the members of this industry, because that really gives way for actual connection.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
would you say that the magazine is for realtors, or would you say the magazine would be for buyers or sellers?
Definitely realtors. Not that buyers or sellers couldn't get value from it, but that's like our core audience. It's only going to the top 500 realtors in Central Maryland. So all of our content is really built for that, telling the stories of the agents, which serves to like help other agents, but also help you get to know them. But ideally, you also can learn something from it. What we're in control of, and our audience basically is realtors.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, I can see how that would work. Connection in a competitive industry. Tell us a little bit about your platform and other things that you guys kind of do to make connections with realtors and vendors and different events that you guys put on.
Yeah, and outside of the magazine, which is one great avenue to tell stories and kind of organically connect through that, we know the real connection happens face to face and belly to belly in this industry, and it's all about relationships. So we host anywhere from 6 to 8 events throughout the year. This past year we had 7. It varies. I think next year we're slated to do 7 or 8. We're planning the calendar now, so we'll know in a few weeks. To come together in one space on a consistent basis, that's the key. Because if it's one and done, that's more transactional. We're looking to create space for people to build lasting, invaluable relationships that can really be game changers for their business. So that's really how we design our events, where we're either doing it, there's activities like we did our pickleball tournament this past year, or we're doing a field day this year to have people get to have some competition and fun while connecting. The masterminds where people are learning together and connecting. And then, of course, we have our staple parties like Toast to the Top, Summer Soiree, our Fall Fete coming up. Those, of course, are just avenues where we just throw everybody into a room with good food, open bar, music, 360 video, just an opportunity to come together and connect. So that's a huge piece, I think, of how we drive value, but also those really valuable connections. It's really an access point where they can get in front of the top agents consistently and really with some built-in credibility, because all the top agents know, because we communicate with them in any possible way all the time, that all of our preferred partners are crowdsourced from within the community. They're not random businesses off the street. We're not cold calling people. We're not just taking people who reach out to us. They have to be referred from within in a way to vet the businesses that we're putting our reputation behind and saying, you should give this company a shot if you have an opportunity or need an electrician or whatever the case is. And so there's this built-in kind of trust to that. So with that, there's been a lot over the years of really strong partnerships and relationships. Sometimes it's vendor to agent, sometimes it's agent to agent, friendships and sharing of business, referring. When you co-op with an agent, it's powerful when you have a relationship. If you have a buyer and you know the listing agent, that is a huge advantage. What I get most excited about is to see the collaborations that have even happened outside of Real Producers, such as one that comes to mind is one of our partners, Colleen Rippey. She has a staging company, Shamrock Hill Design. And another one of our partners, Maria Schulz, she works with Frame House, which is contractor. And so they partnered up and hosted this really great event together. They hadn't met before. They were connected. I introduced them through, the Real Producers Network. And they co-hosted this really great event where they had networking, they had a panel of agents, and they had like 40 people there. And it was like really awesome. I attended and it was a really great event. And so they're also creating value independent of Real Producers, and they're creating their own community. It's like a little community inside the community, because we can only do so much, right? Like we're hosting these big functions, but like I love a small intimate event. I think sometimes the best connections can be made in a room with 20 to 50 people, sometimes even less, like sometimes 5 people, right? It's not about the number, it's about the quality of the people in the room. And so I get excited too about those partnerships where they can kind of learn from what Real Producers is doing and kind of take that same semblance of community and collaboration and take that on their own. And I'll support that all day. And that just helps, I think, the whole industry.
Yeah. And I think, the connection is really important. And so having, these ways to get together, I think is really great, for people just to start getting together again.
Yes, I think it's more important now than ever. I mean, honestly, because of the rise of AI and how everything, like
Yes.
being with human beings and just how much the industry is shifting and changing, I think it's always been a good idea, but even like now more than ever, like that human connection and the level of collaboration to stay on top of everything evolving as quickly as it is and working together, even just to keep our head on straight, because mentally it's been exhausting for so many people. I have such a pulse on how people are feeling in my role. So it's just like mentally, I think everybody is like kind of burned out, drained, tired of being it's like they have whiplash, in this industry of being like, okay, things are going well. Oh, now we're at a standstill and everything's sitting. Like, it's just like kind of a chaotic time with the government shutdown. There's just all of these factors going on that make the industry and the world feel very chaotic right now. So being able to get grounded in those connections and relationships and know that you're not alone, even if that's all you get is the validation that you're not alone and being surrounded by people going through it and being in the trenches with you, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And then you got, the information overload and like you said about AI. And I think a lot of people, if you have the right mentality around AI, I think that you're in a good position, in a good place. If you use it for good, if you use it as an assistant versus it's not making all of your information up for you. Like you're putting your 2 cents into it. It is all you. It's just helping you organize everything.
Yes.
The AI, our first AI was spell check.
Yes. Yes.
Really, when you think about it. If you think about it
Exactly.
that way, it makes more sense on how to use it and not the information overload and just the overwhelm and confusion. It's a tool to use. And once you learn how to use it, it can really help you out a lot, but it's not your best friend, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to
That's
keep that
important.
connection up for sure.
Yeah.
So, I know that you've had an opportunity to really connect with a lot of different people. It's a very good position, unique position that you've put yourself in. So, if you were to say, what do top producers do differently? What do you see them doing that other people aren't, as some insight on what I can share with my audience? Do you have a couple of different things that you can think about?
I do. I have I have a few that come to mind right away, and a few of them may be things that people don't expect. Some of the ones that people may expect, but I'll kind of share those that come to mind first. One, I would say the first thing is like top producers are typically relationship driven. I mean, that may be obvious, but they play the long game. They're not just chasing deals. They are in it to build relationships and nurture relationships with their clients, and they understand the value of that, which kind of the second one that came to mind was consistency. It takes time, and you have to be consistent to build a relationship. That's what a relationship's all about. So showing up every day, even when no one's watching. And that also goes for like some of the activities that generate business. Like a lot of the top producers do have lead generation of some sort kind of built into their calendar. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're cold calling people, but even just calling their sphere, calling their past clients, calling their closest relationships, getting comfortable with just touching base with people in your SOI, because if you don't, the next time you talk to them, they're going to be like, I just moved,
Overnight.
right.
You're like, ah,
Exactly. I'm
worst
sure
right.
if you're not doing a good job keeping in touch with them, why do they owe you anything? So I think the consistency, we talked about this offline, being authentic, they're the same person online as they are in person, as they are at the closing table, being truly themselves, not wearing a mask. And in some cases, that's just doing business differently. Like they're not playing the role of what they envision a top producer should be and driving a high-end car or whatever they feel like their image needs to represent. They're just being down to earth in themselves, and they'll attract the right fit clients for them being themselves. So I think that's always an advantage. They're learners for sure, constantly growing, like they're never too big for their britches.
Yeah.
Coaching, they're reading, they're evolving. I think they're lifelong learners in generally speaking. Like there's people who can be successful without being all of these things. I noticed that I pictured a top producer as the most socialite, gregarious person in the room, work in the room. They're usually not the loudest. They're usually actually the humble, kind of grounded, laser-focused people. In many cases, very introverted. And that doesn't mean they won't be caught out in the social scene, but they certainly have a social battery that can run out. They pour into clients in their work, but they're not necessarily out there just being the belle of the ball, like, hey, everybody, and work in the room. Some of them are like that, but I find like looking at the top list, like a larger percentage of them are not, they're quieter. They also say no. They know their boundaries and they protect their energy. And, when you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to something else. They're saying yes to, in some cases, their family. I'm impressed with so many of the top producers that I know that really do a good job of still making time for whether it's their partner, their kids, their lifestyle, important, like making sure that they get their workout in or play pickleball at night with their men's group or whatever the case is. They make time for the things that are important to them, and they may work hard. They definitely work hard, but they make sure they also make time for themselves. And the last one I'll mention is just that came to mind is they collaborate with their competitors. I think that also is the spirit of what Real Producers helps perpetuate, and rewards in a sense. But the abundance mindset is definitely real. The idea that there's plenty of business to go around, and those types of leaders that just want to help other people and aren't worried about, oh, I'm not going to help them because they're going to take away something from me. Like that's a scarcity mindset. And a lot of them that I work with and know have much more of an abundance mindset. There's enough business for all of us, and we can all help each other be better together.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. That's some really great, wise words. So now for the fun question. Every realtor had a page in your magazine. What would it look like?
Well, the first thing I think of when I hear that is the type of story that I love to read and that we get the best feedback on. And so this would apply to, anybody that we're featuring in the magazine. And that is a human story, meaning we really want to know who they are, what drives them, what have they overcome. The best stories that we've told are rooted in some level of vulnerability. I think vulnerability is such a superpower. It's something I am always working on showcasing within myself, because I was sort of raised with, unintentionally, in case my mom's watching this, but a perfectionist type of mindset. And so she was raised and had the same type of expectation with her. And so it just kind of passes down from, so, so with that type of mindset, it's hard to show vulnerability because you always want to be positioning yourself as kind of knowing what's going on and, not necessarily showing weakness or whatever. But over time, I've learned that is the biggest strength that at least draws me and magnetizes me towards somebody, is their ability to be vulnerable, because that shows humility, that shows their heart, that it opens up. It's like, otherwise it just feels like there's a wall. And sometimes maybe that people feel that with me, and that's what I want to dismantle, is for them to see who I really am. And only when I feel like you show that you have faults, that you're not perfect, that you struggle with certain things, other people can then relate to you because they see themselves in you, and they're like, oh, okay, they're just like me too. They're not like on this pedestal being perfect all the time. Like, I know that's the type of content I gravitate towards on social media. I know those are the types of people that I gravitate towards. So the stories in the magazine, like the first one that I can remember that I felt like really struck a chord personally, but also with the feedback we received. And this was like, I think in 2018. So it was only like the first year of being in print with Baltimore Real Producers, was shout out to Stu Epstein. Stuart Epstein's one of our preferred lenders. Do you know Stu, Beth? Yeah, he's awesome. He's an OG. He's been with us for a long time, but also just in the industry for a really long time. And we did a partner spotlight article on him. And he didn't just talk about, oh, here's how much I produce, and here's all the cool things I do as a lender, and I communicate, and I'm awesome. Of course, he is all those things, but the story was really rooted in his recovery journey from addiction.
Wow.
So it really addressed that part of his life. And of course, like, transcending that and where he is today, being sober and happy and thriving. And even more today, past that article, I would say he's even thriving at another level. He's doing like ice baths every day, and he's very physically and mentally thriving. But that article is one that I think about and talk about often, because I feel like it really broke a barrier. And for those who read it, it kind of gave permission to others to be a little bit more vulnerable. And we share the concept with everybody that is even in queue to be featured, because we want to bring down their wall a little bit, make them feel comfortable when they're being interviewed, sharing some of what they would consider kind of the deeper, darker parts of their life, because that's really ultimately what will draw people into you and make your story memorable. And so that's all we really want, is for people to be obviously authentically themselves, but showcase really themselves, what they've gone through, their struggles, even if they feel nervous, like it's going to be somehow embarrassing. It won't. It won't. Like, it never is. Like, anything that you've gone through, other people can relate to. Everybody knows someone who's had cancer or has had it themselves. Everybody knows someone who went through addiction or has experienced it themselves. So it's like, these are all very relatable things that will honestly, like we talked about earlier, like that can help him find an ideal referral partner or client, because it's a piece to connect you beyond business at a deeper, more meaningful heart level. So those are the stories. If every realtor had a page, I would want to cut to the heart of who they are and what they've been through, so that they could share that with the world. And there's something freeing about that for them too, not just the reader who's kind of consuming it. The act of reflecting on their journey and telling that story is very therapeutic, and it can be very healing for people.
Absolutely. Now that's great. If anybody wants to catch any of your past stories like that, can they find them online?
Yeah, so on BaltimoreRealProducers.com, many years worth on our site, BaltimoreRealProducers.com. Anybody can just read it, download it, and we upload it every month, the fresh edition. Coastal Real Producers, they're all on there because it's only been 2 years. So from day one until now, they can access any past article. So yeah, feel free, if anyone's watching, to kind of skim through.
That's fabulous. And then, so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Is there any way that that you would like for people to connect with you or reach out to you, or?
Yeah, I would just say, if anything that I've shared resonated and you want to connect, whether you're a realtor in the industry, we meet with, I say we because I have a team, so whether it's me or Hannah meets with realtors all the time to connect and kind of bring them into our world and, potentially even interview for a feature. There's a lot of cool things that we can explore, but we're always trying to, of course, bring people into our world. So if you're a realtor and you want to connect and learn more, feel free to, just simply you can reach out to me and I'll get you to the right place or respond myself. My email's Colleen@rpmags.com, like Real Producers Magazines. It's rpmags.com. And also if you own a business in the area and you want to network with and build relationships with top realtors in Central Maryland or the coastal market, of course, hit me up because, biasedly, we have the best possible avenue for you to do that. So, and I think we kind of touched on that today. So if you're interested in advertising, for sure, reach out. But yeah, I always love connecting people and connecting people together and connecting with people. So feel free to reach out. If anything struck a chord, I'd love to get any feedback. And I just appreciate the platform, Beth, to sharing my story, and just the fact that anybody's asking and anybody cares, obviously, is a blessing. So it's really cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on and sharing the goodness. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.